The rain fell like broken glass that night, cold, sharp, and merciless. The streets were nearly empty, except for a thin girl crouched beside a trash bin outside a bakery that had long closed for the day. Her small frame was wrapped in a torn gray blanket, her hair soaked and matted against her pale cheeks. She looked about 14, maybe 15, but hardship had aged her eyes far beyond her years. They were the kind of eyes that had seen too much hunger, too much loneliness. She waited, trembling, as the bakery lights dimmed and the owner stepped out, locking the glass door behind him. Her voice was soft but cracked from cold and emptiness. "Do you have any expired cake?" she whispered. The man didn't even stop. He just waved her away, muttering something about lazy beggars, as he pulled up his umbrella and disappeared into the night. The girl dropped her head, the words hitting her harder than the rain. She wasn't begging for money, only for what others threw away. But that night, even the leftovers of kindness seemed out of reach. If you believe that a single act of kindness can change a life, or even save one, then please take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to our channel. Let's remind the world that compassion still matters, and that second chances are real. As the night deepened, the girl, whose name was Emma, curled beside the dumpster behind the bakery. Her small hands clutched the blanket tighter, and her lips trembled as she whispered to herself stories of better days, of the warm muffins her mother used to bake when life still had a roof and laughter. But those memories were fading, buried under months of sleeping on sidewalks and surviving on discarded crumbs. Her mother had passed away after a long illness 2 years ago, and Emma had no one left. Foster homes had felt like cages, so she ran. But out here, the world was harsher than she ever imagined. Across the street, in a sleek black car parked near the corner, Ethan Graves, one of the city's youngest billionaires, sat motionless behind the wheel. He wasn't supposed to be there that night. He wasn't supposed to stop. But his eyes, tired from endless meetings and hollow business deals, had caught sight of the girl through the rain-streaked window. Something in the way she held herself, quiet, defeated, but not broken, struck him. He had built his empire from nothing, but somewhere along the way, he had lost his sense of purpose. The luxury, the power, the applause, none of it warmed him anymore. He had been driving aimlessly after another empty corporate gala when he saw her. For a few long seconds, Ethan did nothing. Then, almost against his own instincts, he got out of the car, pulling his long coat tighter against the rain. The cold bit into his skin as he walked toward her. Emma didn't see him until his shadow fell across her face. She flinched, shrinking back, ready for the usual scolding or the harsh words people threw at her. But instead, she heard a voice, calm, deep, and strangely gentle. "What did you say to that man earlier?" he asked quietly. Emma hesitated, her lips trembling. "I just asked if he had any expired cake." The simplicity of the answer pierced something inside Ethan. Expired cake, something worthless to everyone else, was still hope to her. He felt a lump in his throat as he knelt down to her level. "Come with me," he said softly. "You shouldn't be out here." Emma's eyes widened. "No, please, I'm not doing anything wrong. I'll leave." But Ethan shook his head. "I didn't say you were. Just, come. Let's get you something warm." That night, Ethan took Emma to a small 24-hour diner. She hesitated at first, afraid it was some kind of cruel trick, but the smell of food broke her resistance. When the waitress brought out a plate of pancakes, eggs, and a steaming mug of cocoa, Emma's hands shook so much she could barely hold the fork. Ethan didn't speak as she ate, he just watched. Every bite seemed like a battle between disbelief and hunger. When she finally looked up, her eyes glistened with tears. "No one's ever done this," she said quietly. "Not for me." Ethan didn't know how to respond. The truth was, he wasn't sure why he had stopped. Something about her, her quiet resilience, reminded him of his own mother, who had raised him alone in a small apartment before dying when his company first started to take off. He had been too busy to visit her in her final days. That guilt never left him. After she finished eating, Ethan drove her to a nearby motel. He paid for a week's stay and left her a small envelope with some cash. "Get some rest," he said. "We'll talk tomorrow." But that night, Ethan couldn't sleep. He stared at the ceiling of his penthouse, haunted by the image of that thin girl asking for expired cake. It echoed in his mind like a plea for forgiveness, not just for her hunger, but for the world's indifference. Over the next few days, he visited her again. He brought her clean clothes, books, and warm food. Slowly, Emma began to trust him. She told him about her mother, about the foster homes, and about her dream of becoming a baker someday, so no one would ever have to beg for cake again. That line made Ethan smile, but it also broke him a little inside. He decided to help her. Quietly, without making it a publicity stunt or charity headline. He enrolled her in a small community program for at-risk youth, paid for her schooling, and even arranged part-time work for her at a bakery he owned through one of his companies. Emma threw herself into the work, humble, hardworking, and grateful for every crumb of opportunity. Months passed. Winter gave way to spring, and Emma slowly began to bloom. Her cheeks regained color, her laughter returned, and her hands, once trembling from cold, now shaped dough and icing with delicate skill. She became known among the staff for her kindness, always wrapping up the unsold pastries at night to give to the homeless before heading home. Ethan watched her progress quietly from afar. He visited sometimes, not as a billionaire, but as a friend. She'd greet him with a shy smile and offer him a fresh muffin, still warm from the oven. "No expired cake today," she'd say teasingly, and he'd chuckle. But one evening, tragedy struck again. A fire broke out in the bakery due to a faulty wiring system. Emma was inside, helping close up for the night. When Ethan received the call, panic gripped him like iron. He rushed to the scene, his heart pounding as flames devoured the building. Firefighters worked frantically, but he broke through the barricade, shouting her name until his voice gave out. Then, through the smoke, he saw her. Emma stumbled out, coughing, clutching a small box in her arms. It wasn't money or jewelry, it was the bread she had been baking for the homeless shelter nearby. She had gone back to save it. She collapsed in his arms, gasping for breath. Ethan carried her to safety, refusing to let go until the ambulance arrived. She survived, barely, but spent several days in the hospital recovering from smoke inhalation. During those long hours beside her bed, Ethan realized just how deeply she had changed him. She had given him something all his wealth never could, purpose. When Emma finally woke up, her first words were soft but steady. Did the bread make it?" Ethan laughed through tears. "Yes. You saved it." She smiled faintly. "Good, then it wasn't for nothing." That moment became the turning point in Ethan's life. He established a foundation in Emma's name, the Expired Cake Project, dedicated to redistributing surplus bakery goods to the homeless and funding shelters for children in need. The story went viral, not because of Ethan's wealth, but because of Emma's courage and compassion. A year later, Emma, now 16, stood beside him at the grand opening of the foundation's first free community bakery. Her hands, once cold and empty, now baked bread that fed hundreds daily. When she looked at Ethan, she didn't see a billionaire anymore. She saw the man who believed in her when no one else did. And Ethan, looking at the crowd, the warmth, the smiles, realized that the night he met her was the night he stopped living for profits and started living for people. If this story touched your heart, please take a moment to like, share, and subscribe. Let's fill the world with more kindness, one story at a time. Before we end, tell us in the comments, what would you have done if a homeless child asked you for expired cake? Would you walk away, or would you stop? Your answer might just inspire someone else to care. That night, as the lights from the new bakery glowed softly in the street, Emma stood by the door handing out warm loaves to a line of waiting people. She wore a simple apron, her hair tied back neatly, her eyes shining. Ethan watched from a distance, smiling. The rain had begun to fall again, but this time, it felt different, softer, cleansing, alive. The city that once ignored a girl begging for expired cake was now fed by the warmth she brought back into it. And for Ethan Graves, the billionaire who thought he had everything, that girl had given him the one thing money could never buy, a second chance at being human.